Now, we move on to the next speaker. It is my honor, my great pleasure to introduce our next topic, and it is basically a discussion, a panel discussion on the application of artificial intelligence in dealing with some of the most profound challenges that we have to deal with as humanity. I'm talking, of course, about sustainability, environment protection, and climate change. And we have here two experts to discuss these issues with us. We have Lubomila Jordanova. She is the founder of PlanA. It is a startup dedicated and committed to helping organizations increase their sustainability and achieve their sustainability goals. And we have also Marc Schattenmann, who is a director at the German Federal Ministry for the Environment. And his ministry works with research, works with a lot of organizations in order to find ways to apply AI and apply technology in general to addressing climate and sustainability issues. So welcome to you both. Now, my first question may be, so basically, I want to discuss two clusters of questions with you. One is AI for sustainability, and the other is the sustainability of AI itself. Let's start maybe with you, Marc, if I may. What do you think? How can AI help us deal with sustainability challenges? What are the most amazing, most convincing use cases that you came across?
Thank you, Nabila, for having me and for hosting this important discussion. Yeah, AI certainly offers major opportunities for the environment, for climate protection and resources. On the one hand, there are scientific advantages. AI helps us to improve, refine, expand our knowledge, sort of to learn more when analyzing big data and all of this. So our understanding improves by using AI. On the other hand, there's sort of a pragmatic benefit. I mean, there are already numerous AI solutions out there that help us deliver more effective, more efficient solutions for the environment. And we're proud that as the ministry, we're able to provide seed money and grant money to some of these amazing initiatives. And so the most prominent use cases, I mean, that's sort of our everyday lives. I mean, transportation is something that we all make use of, whether public transport or cars or bikes. And I mean, AI is used every day to help us find our routes through cities or on our daily commute. And of course, there are still opportunities where AI can be used to find not the most efficient or fastest route, but the one that has the best carbon footprint, and also looks at the overall environmental impact. I think the speaker right before us was from a car sharing company. Of course, that's a fascinating opportunity, but there's also public transport, so you have to find the best mix there. And the second area where there are big opportunities is, of course, sustainable consumption, where we're also sort of promoting and helping the development of what they call green consumption assistance that guide us to more or better choices when we're shopping online. So much for a start.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. What about you, Lubomila? What kind of use cases and applications do you think there are for for companies? And maybe you can tell us some, some of the experiences you had in working with companies.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this question. And of course, first of all, thank you so much for the great opportunity to be here and share a bit more about how we use AI. AI is quite crucial in the work that we do, and it's actually not only us that have recognized this. There's a lot of studies that show that using AI for environmental applications has not only the opportunity to boost GDP in terms of productivity and efficiency, but also reduce significantly CO2 emissions. Maybe I can give a few examples. We work with, for example, fashion companies, and AI is actually able to support the understanding of water resource, water intensity, and by that allowing for better management and monitoring to enable essentially the reduction or elimination of waste within the production process. For those of you that are not familiar, this industry is quite heavily reliant on water, and water is really precious as we have barely any fresh water left on this planet, and different corners of it. Another example that I think is applicable to a multitude of our clients, because we work with different banks, we work with different institutions within the corporate sector, is energy. Energy is overwhelmingly present in every single industry. Even just this conference to be able to happen is the result of us consuming energy. And AI has the potential to drive higher efficiency in the energy sector through intelligent grid systems that utilize deep prediction capabilities to manage demand, supply, and then optimize essentially the use of renewable energy sources. And essentially, in a nutshell, kind of these two examples, I can go on for quite a long and validation of how AI has the power to support decarbonization and also support, of course, the implementation of the UN Sustainable Development Goals related to use of more reliable energy resources and having a more equitable society.
Yeah, thank you very much. By the way, I'd like to encourage the listeners and people who are watching us now live to ask also questions and use the chat function, and I'll convey your questions to the participants. Now, we talked about two use cases, or maybe three. We talked about agriculture, energy, transportation, but could we maybe make it more concrete, like how AI exactly is helping us? Let's say, Lubomila, you mentioned the energy sector. Could you please explain how AI exactly being used in this area?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have, for example, quite a lot of clients that have physical products. These are electric bikes, automotive, and others. And even though these systems are optimized for the highest level of output in terms of products, so how much they can produce, quite often there's a lot of energy leakage, as we call it. And what this is essentially a lot of energy that is basically not used for the purpose of the production, but is still consumed by the company itself. What we have done in such cases is the implementation of intelligent grid systems, as well as on tracking, monitoring devices that allow for the physical premises to be understood in terms of how they use their energy, and if this is actually energy that can be distributed towards another use within the company. Another example that is quite important, I would say, for the transportation that is also highly reliable on one or another type of energy is related to actually how the means of transport are utilized as they are today. And in terms of AI, what we've noticed is that by having a lot of data, for example, about the commute of employees within a company, we're able to allow for AI applications to make this transportation more efficient and connect the different stakeholders within the organization and essentially eliminate the need for use of one transportation versus another, similar to the complex logistics patterns that companies like Amazon or DHL would use.
Marc, I'm always amazed to learn that agriculture is actually a very increasingly digitized, section and industry. What do you think? So you also alluded to agriculture, and there are a lot of use cases in agriculture for artificial intelligence and for sustainability. Do you think we are utilizing this potential? Or are there certain things that maybe we could do to tap into the potential of AI in this area?
Absolutely. The potential is being used, but the potential is so vast that there are always more opportunities. And as Lubomila hinted at, it's our perspective is not one of efficiency. And we actually have a Ministry for Agriculture, and there's a sort of traditional tension between the two ministries. So protection of the environment and the farmers, although the two of them are very linked, and we have also a good working relationship. But on their, to give you one example, nitrates are found in a lot of fertilizers, and of course there's a huge environmental impact on our drinking water and so on. So we would be critical of AI applications that just try to maximize agricultural output. We would like to see AI applications that help us sort of to get the maximum output with the least environmental damage possible. And I think the potential is there, and we have to sort of steer and nudge the development in the right direction. Another example, because you asked for specific examples, on there are AI systems that can stop windmills when certain types of birds approach them. For example, there's been a story about the red kite recently in Germany, where windmills have to stop because they would shred the birds. And so if you can develop a system that helps you sort of stop the windmills when a flock of birds arrives, and then get them turning again after that, that can help us to develop the smart grid and the renewable energy system that was already mentioned.
Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of applications, but isn't it a challenge, at least in this case, to get it to the to the people who are supposed to use them? Like, how about increasing AI adoption? So you have solutions, you have very good ideas, but how to ensure that those ideas, those concepts, those solutions are being used?
Absolutely, that's a huge challenge, and also sort of to get them to the sort of maybe small and medium-sized companies and nonprofit organizations where the business case is not immediately obvious. I think that's a big challenge. And we have sort of a program where we give sort of public money to AI companies, or also sort of groups of maybe companies and nonprofits, or public transportation system in one area, and an AI developer to develop applications. We call it sort of the lighthouse, AI lighthouse program for the environment, climate, and so on. And hopefully we'll have a new round of funding to announce very soon. So we're trying to get this in the right direction, and we also working on sort of labs for and hubs for medium-sized small companies and nonprofits.
Lubomila, you work with a lot of companies, and you have a lot of expertise in this area. Based on your experience, what do you think? What is exactly the role of regulatory bodies? What would you wish for Marc, for example, to do? How can policymakers and ministries support you and support the application of AI in the area of sustainability?
I think the role of the regulatory bodies is incredibly important, because, as rightfully mentioned by Marc, we have a responsibility to use this technology in a manner that it doesn't necessarily only optimize for efficiency, but also supports the improvement of the health of our planet. And what this means is that we need to have a certain framework within which we work that is allowing for these two things to be protected at the same time. What would be quite useful is if we, like in any other industry, of course, have opportunity for AI to become part of the day-to-day concerned kind of activities, and something that is established as applicable technology to the many, but also to establish a framework that exactly defines where essentially the environment is not necessarily protected, and where we're maybe going a bit too much more towards efficiency. We also need a bit more transparency and measurement on the success of the applications that exist already today. There's been already a lot of experiments that have been done internationally in Germany itself, and these would allow us to essentially establish how to think of the future and the next applications. But in a nutshell, what is, at least for me, most important is that the protection of the environment sits at the same level of importance as the efficiency gains.
So you both agree on this point, and actually I also agree with you. Now, if we move to the next block, and which is the sustainability of AI itself. Lubomila, as you know, and of course Mark, you know as well, training AI models consume a lot of energy. It also increases the carbon footprint of companies. How does AI compare with other sources of carbon dioxide production?
I often find it quite funny, also in a way, it's kind of sad, is that the AI industry is often compared to the oil industry, because once mined and refined, the data like oil can be highly lucrative. And the metaphor goes on further, but I think it's a good way to think about also the intensity of what it actually stands an AI model to be really trained. Training a single AI model can emit as much as carbon as 5 cars in their lifetime, or 50 times of average yearly carbon footprint emitted by a human, which is quite intense. So this is where I would say, having this knowledge, we need to be quite mindful of what kind of experiments we take on, and what applications we look at, because not every AI is as useful as the other one, but every single AI is as energy intensive as the other one, which makes it, I guess, a bit more of a complex topic that requires us to be mindful of where we spend our time on.
Mark, what do you think? Can AI have a sustainable carbon footprint? And if so, how?
It better have, or it must have. And I think Lubomila hinted at the crucial points. I mean, the AI is not the oil industry, but sort of people have to become mindful of the energy consumption and of the sort of the carbon footprint. And I think most people by now have learned that it's not a good idea to drive a gas guzzling SUV to the bakery, but they can walk or ride their bike. And so I think one point to make clear is that use AI when you have to use it, but not just because it's fancy, or use blockchain technology just because it's in fashion right now. If you can do it sort of in a leaner, greener way, then use this. And I think it's also, I think, our responsibility, sort of as public servants and as a ministry, to make clear that we have to look at all levels of sort of the digital infrastructure. So how is the software programmed, on what kind of infrastructure is there, where are the data centers, what kind of energy consumption do they have? I mean, talking about the cloud always leads people to believe that it's sort of somewhere out there and has no material impact. But if you've been to one of these huge data centers or just seen them, I mean, that's not true. The cloud is a physical location somewhere, and it uses energy somewhere, and soil and space and everything. And so we have to make clear what kind of impact these structures have, and then use them responsibly.
Right. To be also fair to the tech industry, I think a lot of companies, especially AI companies, are aware of this problem, and they are trying very hard, to reduce their carbon footprint. For example, yesterday I was watching the Apple keynote, and Tim Cook, the CEO, mentioned that Apple by 2030, I think, will become, completely carbon neutral. Like they would only rely on renewable energy throughout their data centers and throughout their supply chain, which is honestly a huge development for sustainability. Lubomila, I think you have maybe a similar also experience working with companies, right? Like they take this problem seriously, and they like want to make a positive contribution to sustainability.
Absolutely. PlanA works with now more than 500 companies from all over Germany and Europe. And what this has allowed us to understand is that the drive for sustainability is becoming something quite crucial to a company's existence. For the companies that have understood this, they have already seen increase in revenues or better employee retention opportunities, as well as better adoption from their customers of these sentiments related to sustainability. And we believe that there's no chance of having another mindset, and probably in the next few years there would be a significant kind of request also on a regulatory level. We're hoping that companies really embed this in the way they conduct business.
Right. And now, finally, Marc, are there any initiatives at your ministry that you want to tell us about? Any plans?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I've mentioned our sort of sponsorship program for AI initiatives earlier. We're trying to have a new round of seed money. We're working on a green AI hub for medium and smart medium and small companies. And together with two other ministries, the Ministry of Labor and for Family, we're trying to establish a network so to help the non-profit sector make use of AI and sort of tap the potential. And follow us on I don't know, Twitter, LinkedIn. Check out our website, and you'll see interesting things coming your way in the near future.
Great. Lubomila, Marc, thank you very, very much. That was a very exciting discussion.
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day.
Sure. Thank you.